I think every founder, comes out of Meta, regrets selling their company to Meta.
That
Palmer
happened
Luckey.
with both Instagram and WhatsApp for sure.
Yeah, Palmer as well for Oculus.
Oh yeah, Palmer too. Yeah.
But at the same time, Zuck doesn't make it easy to say no. I mean, he literally will give you like a crazy good price, or he'll crush you, right? Like he'll he'll clone your exact app, which is what Instagram did, right? With Snapchat. I mean, a lot of the innovations we take for granted today, like stories and private messages and stuff, come from Snapchat. Even the glasses came from Snapchat, right? Like the one that Meta AI is like kind of perfecting right now.
Tariffs are going to be bad for the market, and I think Trump is serious about it. I think there isn't a world where we go back to near 0% tariffs. I think the best we'll get is like 10 to 15%. I think there's another worry that I have around kind of flight away from US dollars, and we've seen this a little bit. Do you really want to be in the biggest actual driver to US equities in the last few years has been kind of more and more people putting money in US dollars, and then you got to put it somewhere. But I just feel like there's this kind of reverse trend here where, if you want to improve US manufacturing, you kind of want to weaken the US dollar. If you want to weaken the US dollars, everyone else should get out of US dollars. And actually, the only way to weaken the US dollars is for money to leave.
It takes a while for this stuff to work its way through the system. So I would say that, the worst impact would probably be towards the end of this quarter and like next quarter. And then my thesis is that we're going to see significant layoffs across the board. And unemployment rate is going to rise at some point, and the Fed will cut rates at some point based on higher unemployment.
Hi everyone, welcome to Founders in Arms podcast with me, Immad Akhund, co-founder and CEO of Mercury.
And I'm Raj Suri, co-founder of Lima and Tribe. Today we have an episode with just Immad and I talking about the week's tech news and some of the stuff that we're working on or excited about. And we had a guest, fortunately couldn't make it, so we'll reschedule him for another day. And today Immad and I will be talking about a bunch of things that we're excited about. I guess the big news for this week is this epic lawsuit against Apple that has finally concluded with a judge saying that now app developers can link out to websites and allowing the developers to charge off the Apple platform, meaning they don't have to pay 30% tariff rate to Apple. This is huge news for developers.
I mean, I think there'll be lots of situations where it still makes sense for developers to use in-app purchases, right? The conversion rate can easily be 30% higher, but I am excited about being able to buy Audible and Kindle books without this. Right now, it's such a complicated dance. You have to go to Amazon.com, find it. It's completely pointless. So that will definitely be a better user experience.
I didn't realize that was because of the Apple issue.
It is.
It's this credit system, right? That you have to use. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have credits, you can't. Actually, you can sometimes buy them. It's just complicated. And it'll be way better after you can link out. I guess it could actually be a pretty smooth experience if you have an app, you link out, and then it pops up something where you can use Apple Pay. Ironically, Apple Pay makes it actually pretty easy.
Apple Pay has been a game changer for so many apps now. It's so easy to pay.
So many websites, yeah.
I mean, payments used to be a really annoying thing, 10 years ago, and Apple Pay has really made it so much easier in every respect. I mean, even tap to pay at stores now. I mean, I almost never need to take out my credit card anymore. Almost every terminal.
And I think Apple makes a little bit of money every time you do that.
Yeah.
Their whole big thing is services revenue now because, you just don't need to update your iPhone that often. So it all adds up.
It was kind of notable that the judge referred Apple for criminal contempt for not obeying the rule, the earlier ruling, and it was kind of. They basically called out Tim Cook for not listening to his product team and instead listening to his finance team, and they called out his finance leader, the VP of finance, for outright lying on the stand. Apparently, their product team, basically told them that they should just kind of go with this, and it's better for the overall reputation, for Apple to, allow this. But their finance team
they had emails of the finance team saying don't do it. Oh,
I think so. Yeah, that's what I was reading, and they had this and apparently Tim Cook didn't listen to them, went for the finance team instead. I think you probably have been in this position, right, Immad, like where you have different team members, different, advocating for different positions based on their role.
I mean, it's not just role, right? Like any healthy company has like different perspectives. So I think the different perspectives is not bad. It's like if it turns out one perspective is like illegal and contempt of court, that's different. It's kind of interesting. All right, we also had the other news. I think it was last week or the week before, where Google's being told to actually break up. Right? I think they're probably gonna do another appeal. But I think like there was a kind of funny thing where OpenAI was like, "Hey, if you're breaking up, let us buy Chrome," which would be kind of bad probably to have like one monopoly take it from another monopoly. But the interesting thing here is, we had 4 years of kind of, the Democrats going after big tech. And this is kind of the conclusion of those things. And I was wondering whether, is the new administration going to try to stop these things? Presumably it can't, because this is kind of the judicial system. And in many ways, Trump has also been kind of anti-big tech at times as well. So, or the Republicans have. So, I wonder what else is kind of in the pipeline against kind of.
I think Trump can absolutely stop these, like, these prosecutions if he chose. He just chose not to, right? Zuckerberg actually personally pitched Trump. This is, to stop his antitrust lawsuit against Meta, and it's the government prosecuting. The DOJ is prosecuting these cases, or it's the FTC actually, right? And so they can stop anytime they want. They can just put pens down and it's over. They've decided to keep going with it. Maybe Trump feels like if the ruling is favorable to the government, then they can always settle later on, and there still could be a settlement, I think, right at the end of these things. But maybe he want to just keep going, see what the courts say, and then decide how much leverage he has after that.
Yeah. Well, he's also presumably busy with a lot of things, so maybe this isn't the top priority. I actually noticed TikTok is still on the App Store. When is the deadline for that happening?
No, he keeps extending it.
The
deadline was up sometime in March or April, and he extended another 90 days. He's going to keep it. TikTok is not going anywhere. It's pretty clear.
With that divestment, I mean, there was a feeling that at least someone was saying that Trump is in the pocket of Chinese, but obviously with these tariffs, it's pretty clear he's still pretty anti-China. So maybe they want to keep TikTok for the negotiations with China, like as one more pawn in the negotiation. Yeah.
I'd love to believe there's a grand strategy here versus, kind of flying by your seat of the pants and seeing what happens. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out. But it is interesting that, what do you think of all this antitrust stuff? Do you think these companies should be broken up, or do you think they should be more surgical?
I think breaking up companies seems a little silly. Like, you take YouTube away from Google. Like, what are we doing? How does that make YouTube less competitive? I mean, it's still basically a monopoly. And I actually think mostly if you did break these companies up, they would be more valuable as a sum of the parts. I think it's hard to value Google because, you think, oh, wow, Google search is going to, maybe be disrupted. But actually Google is like 10 different pretty big revenue streams. But I don't really know what we're achieving. I feel like we should pick the specific thing that is anti-competitive and come up with a way of making it competitive. So if I was to go after Apple, I would say, hey, the thing that Apple does that's anti-competitive is force everything through the App Store and force everyone to give a 30% rake. So obviously this new ruling helps against the 30% rake. But yeah, why can't there be another Apple App Store on Apple iPhones and people can opt out of it? I would do things like that. I would try to come up with points of or positions in the market where it is anti-competitive and then come up with like answers to that position. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, the other one that always bugs me is Amazon. Like the fact that they can like take something that's doing really well on Amazon, make an Amazon Basics version of it and put it above it or their own home brand version. I don't think it's always called Amazon Basics, but like that seems like very anti-competitive. And I know grocery stores have done it forever, but Amazon is like much more of a monopoly than like your local grocery store or even Safeways or whatever. That's always bothered me as like something that like it just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. I mean, Costco is famous for doing this pretty well. The Kirkland brand, and I think Kirkland brand is like a huge percentage of the revenue now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I guess it's hard to get mad at Amazon if everyone else is also doing it. You'd have to have a
Yeah.
consistent policy.
Yeah, you need a consistent policy. It is, it's a tough one. It feels unfair, but it's since everyone is doing it, it's like, well,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, one
wanna
thing
change it.
interesting, you were saying earlier how you're using all the AI APIs. Yeah, I remember when OpenAI first came out and ChatGPT was being big, everyone kind of felt that they would be the monopoly, right? There would only be one good LLM, and but now there's just so many, so it's hard to actually see where the monopoly power is going to come between Anthropic, OpenAI, Google. And then I guess DeepSeek and all the Chinese versions of this. Do you think that there is kind of monopoly power to be had in these in the LLM API space?
No, not at all. No. They're very much a commodity at this point, and like all developers like myself are just like switching between them, depending on which one is better. It's quite easy to do that. And honestly, like it's really exciting because you can get a bunch of free functionality that would otherwise take you a long time to like build. Because these guys are just building it and putting it in their APIs, like image generation, it's already in their API. It's really, it went from like, a groundbreaking thing that OpenAI developed like a month ago, to like now available to anyone, to like build on, which is really powerful. Like any app can add image generation, which is a really cool feature, right? Like, the Ghibli stuff and like, I think there's a bunch of action figure stuff that's online, right? This functionality is now really easily available, and like there's so much stuff coming. It's like a bounty for developers. It's like the best time to be developing cool apps because these AI guys are coming up with so many cool things and they're competing so heavily. OpenAI is shipping at a ridiculous rate right now. Like they have new features every
it's
week.
really impressive.
Yeah. It's kind of inspiring because they're a big company. We know it's hard to like ship stuff as a big company. But it's all kind of integrated. So they announced this week a bunch of improvements to their search functionality. And I believe they're also going to be enabling shopping on the OpenAI.
I never use OpenAI Search. You use OpenAI Search?
I haven't. I've actually used Perplexity more than OpenAI Search. It's just like the one extra button to hit search. I don't press it.
I just never think of it. I end up using deep research quite often if I feel like I'm asking a complicated enough question or I wanted to think about it longer. But yeah, for some reason, it never occurs to me to go to OpenAI for search.
Yeah, it doesn't occur to us. Apparently, they get 1 billion search queries every week or something like that. It's like really high.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that compare to Google?
Actually, that would be a good question. We should look that up. Yeah, you look that up on ChatGPT.
I'm asking 20. Well, Google AI says 29.4 billion. But either way, that's $1 billion is catching up. Yeah.
And I'm sure Perplexity has a big number too. So, but OpenAI probably has. So I think OpenAI is basically becoming this consumer company that wants to like eat every other consumer company. Apparently, they're building a social network now as well.
Yeah, I think they're serious about it as well.
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine what it looks like if it's like a social network built into ChatGPT. Someone came up with like a pretty reasonable idea, which is like it is kind of nice to share prompts. Like if it's that kind of thing, it's like, oh, you did something on ChatGPT and you want to share it, or sharing images. If it's things like that, I think that makes sense. If it's like literally like I add Raj as a friend and I can like see his like tweets or something or whatever the OpenAI version of that would be. I just don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. But apparently, it's going to be something to compete with Twitter and Threads.
Someone suggested they should buy Snapchat. It's only worth 13.2 billion today. So.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But that doesn't feel like it fits very well.
No. But the talent is probably pretty good there. Snapchat's a really interesting story. I mean, I study all these consumer apps carefully, right? And like, I mean, they got an offer from like, I think Mark Zuckerberg for $6 billion over 10 years ago, right? And maybe 12 years ago. And it's been really hard for them to grow, into substantial standalone company. It's been interesting. I mean, WhatsApp itself was sold for like almost 20 billion.
Yeah.
So for some of these consumer apps, it makes sense to sell.
I wonder if Evan regrets it, or maybe he's just had fun. I mean, I guess he's like wealthy either way. So it's just like, is it more fun to, even if your valuation flounders, like, is it more fun to just keep building, or is it kind of frustrating?
I'm sure it's more fun. But you look at the different paths that the Instagram guys took. I think every founder comes out of Meta regrets selling their company to Meta.
That happened with both Instagram and WhatsApp for sure.
Yeah, Palmer as well for Oculus.
Oh yeah, Palmer too. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, Zuck doesn't make it easy to say no. I mean, he literally will give you a crazy good price, or he'll crush you, right? He'll he'll clone your exact app, which is what Instagram did, right? With Snapchat. I mean, a lot of the innovations we take for granted today, like stories and private messages and stuff, come from Snapchat. Even the glasses came from Snapchat, right? Like the one that Meta AI is kind of perfecting
that's
right
brutal.
now. Yeah.
And he's willing to spend $1 billion a year to ruin you as well. So
yeah. It's hard to say no to him. I mean, he is really following the Bill Gates strategy, I think, at Microsoft, right? It's kind of interesting to see how it's basically Meta's become this new version of Microsoft, more consumer facing, but it's the same type of CEO.
Yeah, I'm surprised Bill Gates is not on Meta's board, because it does seem like they're close.
They're close. They're both Harvard dropouts. I just saw an interview with Zuckerberg interviewing Satya. It's interesting to see the alliances that some of these companies have, and the beefs. Like Meta and Apple are huge enemies, right? But Meta is very close to Microsoft, probably because of the Bill Gates connection. And it's interesting, and OpenAI is obviously close to Microsoft, and then Cloud
Anthropic is close to Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, these big foundation models, they all had to ally with someone with deep pockets. As a cloud provider with deep pockets was kind of the requirement. So Google obviously has its own, Amazon and Anthropic, and then Microsoft and OpenAI. Actually, the recent earnings report were a big hit for Microsoft, right? And all of these cloud revenues are still growing like crazy because of AI.
Yeah, even Meta killed their earnings report as well. And Google killed it last week. So all the big tech are still doing pretty well. They're all beating earnings, but I still think it's very early, honestly. My prediction is these tariffs are going to have a major downstream effect on investment and spending. And
but not on these tech companies, right? Or you think they just cause a recession?
I think it'll just cause a recession. I think people will just hunker down. I mean, at least all the people I'm talking to are hunkering down. Unless you're actually working on AI.
Yeah. So actually, I had two ideas here. Number one, we had one of our board members say this, and I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. We were talking about whether tariffs, recession is going to slow down VC funding. And he said, AI is such a big tailwind that whatever happens with a recession, that only hits for 1 year or 2 years, whereas AI is completely changing everything. So his perspective was that even if there is a recession, VC funding doesn't slow down, and potentially this has that this also means that Nvidia still does well, and all of the other kind of AI related stocks. I mean, I guess eventually he could be wrong, and VC funding does eventually slow down if there's a deep enough recession. But at least anything shallow, the VCs still seem optimistic. And sounds like you as well are mostly out of the market right now. At least I'm mostly out of the market. My view on it is that tariffs are going to be bad for the market, and I think Trump is serious about it. I think there isn't a world where we go back to near 0% tariffs. I think the best we'll get is 10 to 15%, and I think there's another worry that I have around kind of flight away from US dollars, and we've seen this a little bit. Do you really want to be in the biggest actual driver to US equities in the last few years has been kind of more and more people putting money in US dollars, and then you got to put it somewhere. But I just feel there's this kind of reverse trend here where, actually, if you want to improve US manufacturing, you kind of want to weaken the US dollar. If you want to weaken the US dollars, everyone else should get out of US dollars. And actually, the only way to weaken the US dollars is for money to leave the US ecosystem, if that makes sense. So, so I think there's plenty of trends that like lead towards people kind of leaving US equities if you are if you're a foreigner, which isn't necessarily bad for the US, as a market as a whole, but it's definitely bad for US equities.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, the timelines are important here, right? Like AI is going to transform the world in 5 to 10 years. I don't know if it's making enough impact right now to like transform industries in like the to counteract a short-term recession. So I think in the next 9 months to a year, I would expect. We already had a quarter of negative growth last quarter. I think we're gonna see one or two more this year, and I think earnings will also be impacted. Like I think all earnings will be impacted. Right now it hasn't. Remember that we're only 1 month into these like severe tariffs, so they started April 2nd. It takes a while for this stuff to work its way through the system, so I would say that the worst impact would probably be towards the end of this quarter and like next quarter, and then my thesis is that like we're going to see significant layoffs across the board. And unemployment rate is going to rise at some point, and the Fed will cut rates at some point based on like higher unemployment.
Why would there be layoffs? You're saying in these companies that are affected by kind of imported goods and the demand goes down, or like where's the layoffs happening?
Yeah, I think everyone obviously working on trade is going to be impacted first. I think everyone else though will also be impacted because so I mean, once you have a slower economy in general, like it's going to affect every part of the economy. You're going to have advertisers buying less stuff because consumers aren't buying because they're laid off from their job, right? Like there's like a number of downstream effects from that. Yes, you're right that AI companies are still going to have funding, and some of them have raised several $1 billion already. So there's a lot of funding in that, but that's a very small pocket of the market, of the economy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of the big tech companies have had hiring freezes for like even years now, right? Like they hired too much in 2021, and now AI is leading to efficiencies. And actually, the recent Mark Zuckerberg interview that sounds like neither of us fully listened to had this thing where like Zuckerberg was saying they've developed an AI internally just to help the engineering team get more efficient, like a kind of internal cursor or windsurf. But yeah, there's definitely like efficiencies being had at levels that are also leading to layoffs, right? I was talking to another VC, and he said he fired all of the lawyers they had in-house because AI is just good enough to like review docs now. And he said 40% of their staff was laid off. So I was like, wow. And obviously, like that's not the whole economy, but yeah, there's lots of things that are pressuring kind of. I mean, on the other side, we have a labor shortage still, I think. So there is like some relief valve to be had, but yeah, maybe this all adds up to like significant enough layoffs.
Yeah. I kind of feel like that has to happen. I mean, look, when Walmart starts laying off people, then we know that it's real. I think, I don't think OpenAI is going to be laying off people anytime soon. But I think, Main Street companies laying off people, that will really tell us something. And I think Trump is doing some good things on deregulation and stuff like that, but that's going to take a while to impact. So you should see growth later down the line with AI and deregulation, but that's going to happen a lot later. Could even be after the midterms.
I think also actually like coming back to tech, it almost makes there's a set of companies that are non-AI and some of them are doing well. I was talking to a founder that's like, built like a serious company, like it's like, 4+ million in annual revenue, and he just can't get a Series A funding done because it's not an AI company. So I think like if the market gets worse, potentially that story gets even worse where the only thing that's getting funded is AI, which actually is like probably a good opportunity for founders like him, because if you can kind of tough it out and keep growing, you're not going to have much competition. But yeah, obviously you got to do it without funding.
I think there is a market for like alternative like investment capital for these companies, like you don't have to follow the herd on VC. Like, most VCs have to invest in AI because that's the story they're telling their LPs, right? But like, if you're a smart investor at this point, you're probably going in the opposite direction and saying, well, I can help these companies. Maybe it's hard to even tell a story where they're going to get to like a massive valuation that quickly, but they're good companies. It's worth owning, good operators, worth owning a piece of it. And maybe there's a structure that makes sense, for an investor to come in. And so I think there's a good opportunity for some like brave investors who don't want to follow the herd and, and back good founders, like who are not working in AI.
Like, are you talking about family offices, or you're saying
you,
this?
I'm saying you. Like,
sure.
You
I mean, but I can't.
Company.
I'm only investing like 150K. Like, I'm not leading Series A's, right? Like, there's probably a set of people out there that do have money that would be willing to do them, but there's kind of a matching problem, right? Like everyone in Silicon Valley thinks of like 20 VCs, and maybe if you go down the list, you've got like 30 VCs. But if you're like some family office that has $1 billion but doesn't do this that much, like it's hard to. The matching problem is like a big deal.
It's going to take a brave person to like put together like a fund who like focuses on these opportunities. So I just don't know if the existing VCs are going to do that. I don't think they are. I think like they're going to be like, they're very much tied to the same group of LPs. And by the way, those LPs are very challenged because there's a big issue with endowments right now. I'm not sure if you know about that, but like, it's like every VC I talk to complains about, raising
what's the issue with endowments?
Well, Trump is going after a bunch of these universities, right? Like, and they're all very under stress financially because, like Harvard, for example, is, being cut off from federal funding. So, they might need to use endowment dollars to fund their operations. And that's true for many companies. That's true for MIT as well. That's true for a lot of these organizations. That everyone's hunkering down from the university side. And university endowments are a big source of LP capital, I believe.
Yeah. I think maybe not the majority, but yeah, maybe actually it is the majority for those like $1 billion funds. I mean, who has enough money to fund $1 billion funds? It's the endowments and like
pension funds, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Endowments,
pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny to me, and maybe this is like me not understanding how the US education system works, but it is funny to me that like somewhere like Harvard has like this huge endowment. Presumably they charge people a lot of money to attend as well. But they're still also accepting federal money, because I mean these are also private institutions, right? Like they're not public. So it is a bit weird.
A lot of it's for research, actually, and like for, research in the public interest, like health research. Harvard operates, it's a very big medical facility.
But that's different, right? Those are grants. Like we're not talking about the grant funding. Which is also under stress.
Yeah, I think a good portion of it is. I don't know what the exact breakdown. I think the majority actually is like.
So there used to be a thing where for every $100 of grants, you could get, I think $66 of federal funding for the for the academic institution or the lab, which is kind of crazy. So it was about 40% would go to the university, and the 60% would go to the funding. And I think they did change that. I believe they changed it to 15% or something. I guess it all adds up, right? Money is green. And like if you're losing funding from this source, then you have to get it from the endowment.
One thing I've learned in the last few years, kind of working on immigration stuff, is that there's too much dependence in general of handouts, from a lot of organizations, including working on immigration. Like in immigration, it's like, I want to solve a problem around immigration. Let me go find donors. Or let me find get some money from the government. And very few people are like, okay, let's figure out like a sustainable business model, to make this work. And there's a culture of that. I think universities certainly have that culture. I think it's a healthy thing to not depend on the federal government, for funding. They shouldn't be. They should figure out their own like a business model that works.
I learned this was last year. I was talking. Anyway, it was someone really high up in. I won't say who because I think this is supposed to be like Chatham House rules. But someone high up in like academic institutions, and they said for most of the top colleges, they make a loss on every student that comes to them. So even if the student's paying like $200K for a bachelor's degree, it's costing them like $300K to service the student, which I thought was insane. There's been such a what is there's like a name for it. Like there's been such a cost disease at these institutions that they can't somehow they can't take like 200K from like one student and turn it into a profit. Which I guess it goes back to your thing. Like there's so much money available that these things are not running at all like a business. They're running like as like very wasteful institutions.
Totally. Yeah. I don't think they're efficient at all. And but places like MIT, like they one thing they are doing is I think they're providing a real social service. I mean, like anyone who's qualified can get into MIT. Like you don't have to have money to get into MIT.
Mm-hmm.
They basically fund every like 70% of people I think are fully funded because they don't meet the income threshold to have to pay. So like it's very from my perspective, I feel like they're doing a real service to like people who are like ambitious and smart and wanted to do great things. A little bit like YC, they're trying to help young talent and. So I would definitely support that type of,
according to a quick search, it's 39% that's tuition free.
Okay, good. Thanks for fact checking. Yeah.
It seemed quite high, but 58% is needs based financial aid. And that is a powerful service. I mean, there's also like a positive externality where if you train a student, they're gonna create tax revenue and there's a reason that a lot of places do have this stuff completely for free. But I guess like the counter argument might be that a lot of this is going to foreign students. Is that true for MIT? I actually don't know.
I don't think foreign students get funding.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, yeah, I don't think so. I think it's only domestic students who get the free ride. I mean, at least for undergrad. I think for grad, foreign students can still get it, but you might have to fact check me on that too. But because I came in as a grad student and my thing was fully funded through like fellowships and things like that. So definitely for grad students it was funded.
I think the difficult thing with a lot of the Trump stuff is like this stuff is happening very suddenly. Like same with tariffs. It's like, if you actually wanted to say, hey, we need to fix academia and we need to come up with like better funding models and these things need to be more efficient. Like ideally you'd do that over a few years and come up with an actual plan rather than like, okay, let's cut the spigot, figure it out and like cause like all of these like second order effects like VC investments not getting enough money from endowments.
Yeah. And look, I think tariffs are going to create a major drag on growth. Open economies grow the fastest. Closed economies don't grow, or either like have negative growth or no growth. I think we'll learn that lesson again soon as like history,
at 10%, it's not a closed economy. Like I guess it depends where we end up.
Yeah, fair enough. But at 145% is certainly close or whatever. So
yeah, I mean that's there's basically an embargo on China. I mean it's a two-way embargo. They also did 100% on the US, right? So
you saw the news that Amazon was like Trump called Bezos because there was a rumor that Amazon was going to display the tariff cost on all of their products. So basically, you'd see how much more you're paying in tariffs on Amazon. Trump called it a hostile political act. And just by displaying the tax, you're just displaying the tax that people are paying.
I mean, Bezos is not even there anymore, but it doesn't seem unreasonable to display the cost of.
It doesn't seem. I mean, you get taxes on your line items all the time, right? Like you see it every time. So,
I mean, I think in the US it's like a legal requirement to show taxes as a separate line item. So it is funny, but it's probably also just hard to calculate, right? I guess sometimes maybe it's simple, but I assume it would be like defined.
Apparently there's a bunch of negotiations going on between like suppliers and purchasers right now. Like Amazon's having a bunch of like apparently according to contracts that like the vendors are supposed to take on the burden of this, right? And if they don't take on the burden, they just cancel the order. So like they're not going to buy it anymore. But there's some negotiation for like critical items where like how do you split the cost of the additional tariff?
I mean, what is the current China tariff? I think it's more than even 145, isn't it? Isn't it like 200 or something? But yeah, it seemed like it would be too much to even split the cost, but maybe it's doable for certain goods.
Thank you everyone for listening to our open thoughts on various current topics. Let us know what you think. in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
And please leave us a review, subscribe, and we appreciate all you listening.